The other day, I had a dream that I thought would make a really good screenplay. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the whole process, from the idea all the way through to actually finishing the script. So let's get into it. I don't know about you, but I am a really active sleeper. I sleepwalk, I sleep talk, and I have some really vivid dreams. And quite often I'll wake up and think, hey, that could make a really good screenplay. And before, I didn't actually used to write them down because I thought, oh, that's really good. I will definitely remember that. And then I wake up in the next morning and completely forget. So then I started writing them down. I would grab my phone and just go into the Notes app and write down one sentence about the idea. But then I'd wake up in the morning and read it and it would make no sense. There was one the other day that was like, monster attacks Earth, lifted up to fight battle. Who knows what that was about? But the one that I do want to talk about was one that I got up and came to my desk and actually ended up writing it down, pen on paper, the old school way, to get an idea of what this was all about. It starts off being a lot of just word vomit onto the page, but then I get into it and it actually does make a bit of sense, and I think there could be something here. Okay, before we get into actually writing the script, I always ask myself one simple question. Am I trying to film this script? Am I going to actually try and get this made? Because that then completely changes what I write. If I'm just writing this for my portfolio, to show what I can do, test out a different genre or a different style, then I can kind of be free with what I write. I can write about the 9-headed monster coming out of the sky. But if I actually want to get this made, then I need to consider how many actors I'm going to need, what locations I'm going to shoot in, and how controlled those locations are going to be. If I all of a sudden write a script that has an ensemble cast filming in the middle of London, that's going to be really difficult to do, and it's probably going to be really expensive. So for this, because I do want to get it made, I'm going to keep it really simple. Okay, but first, let me give you a brief overview of the actual story. So the initial idea was all around the concept that we all have this internal monologue or argument that we have with ourselves when we're trying to make a decision, right? Kind of like the angel and the devil on your shoulders. You go back and forth in your head before you ultimately make the decision. So I thought, how could I visualize that and put it into a short film? Well, a really cool way could be doing it in a courtroom where the judge, the jury, the defense lawyer, and the prosecutor are all the same person. They're all you because it's in your head. So you are now trying to make this decision and having this argument going back and forth between the two. I thought that was an idea that could be really cool to play around with. But then I had to think about, well, what is the situation that my protagonist will be in order for them to have this internal discussion? A popular one in film and TV is when somebody has the choice of to kill or not to kill, to pull the trigger or not to pull the trigger. So I thought if I put my protagonist in a situation where they've pulled a gun on somebody and now they've got to decide whether or not to pull the trigger, that could create this internal monologue that would zoom into their head and create this courtroom scene where they're trying to make the decision or the verdict. Does that make sense? If not, it'll become a lot more clear when I start going through the script. So let's get into that. We are internal in a family basement. Night. A maze of garden tools, a bicycle with a flat tire next to a bedazzled kid's tricycle, boxes for appliances from the 90s, potting soil, 48 rolls of kitchen towel, and a man tied up on a chair with a blood-soaked bag over his head. So when I was writing this, I kind of just wanted to visualize what would be in your standard basement. And all of these different things, it's a maze of all these different pieces coming together. And actually, I first just wrote garden tools, bicycle, tricycle, boxes, potting soil, 48 rolls of kitchen towel. And then I went back in and I sort of, I can add in that the bicycle's got a flat tire, or I can add in that it's a kid's tricycle that's bedazzled, just to add a little bit more color to it and a little bit more to the imagination. So when the reader's going through it, they can actually visualize it. And then obviously you've got the juxtaposition or the sort of shock of, I can imagine the camera panning across, seeing all these standard things, and then it now sees a man tied up with a blood-soaked bag over his head. A light switch clicks. A single hanging bulb illuminates the shaking barrel of a handgun. As I said, I want this to be somebody who has never held a handgun before, so the fact that it's shaking is a bit of showing and not telling that this person is nervous and doesn't really know what they're doing. Our protagonist is Brian, 30s, standing pointing the gun at our unconscious bagman. He doesn't look like he's held a gun before. He's a wreck. Sweat mixes with tears on his face as his emotions erupt between heavy breaths. Brian tries to compose himself, finger on the trigger. He stops. His target begins to regain consciousness. Startled, Brian lowers the gun. Now it's the bagged man's turn to panic. He writhes and moans into the gag. The moans turn to muffled screams. Brian thrusts the gun back towards the man. Shut up! Shut up! Fuck! Shut up! Now obviously there would be a bit more acting to all of this, but I'm just going to read through it just so you get an idea. He is swirling. What does he do? He uses the butt of the gun to hit the side of his own head. Okay, I don't really feel like that what does he do is needed, so I'm going to take that out. See, editing as we go. Thanks for the help. He uses the butt of the gun to hit the side of his own head. The man continues to convulse against the restraints. I'm going to kill you. Stop. I promise I'll do it. You fucking bastard. So this is really where we can bring in that conflict of, is he going to do it? Isn't he going to do it? Is he trying to convince himself? Is he trying to convince the guy he's captured? And also the audience doesn't really know what's going on at the moment, so it's nice this chaos that we're kind of dropping them into. Panic controls his whole body. Each movement is in a different direction. He doesn't want to do this. Brian screams and crouches to the ground, head in one hand, pistol in the other. We push into Brian's dark hair, and cut to. Now how I really imagine this, and it's a bit of a niche reference, but in Bruce Almighty, when Jim Carrey's character has all the prayers and thoughts going into his head and he's trying to get away from it, and he crouches down and he goes like that and it zooms into his head, and then it zooms out and he's on a mountaintop with God or something. I think that's what I want to achieve here. So it zooms into his hair and it's almost like a smash cut into then a courtroom, which is in Brian's mind. This is dreamlike, surreal. A courtroom with a prosecutor, defense lawyer, a jury, and a judge. But all of them are the same person. They're all Brian. The bagman sits next to the defense lawyer. So that gives us kind of a nice visual image of all of our Brians, all in different situations, but then we've also got the bagman with a bag over his head. Brian the prosecutor and Brian the defense lawyer are on their feet, shouting at each other. Brian the judge bangs his gavel. Order, order. If you two cannot behave and get your arguments in order, no, that doesn't make sense. In line, don't want to order in line. I will hold you both in contempt. Contempt? Contempt. So I really wanted them, as they get into the courtroom, it's as if, because it's in Brian's mind and he's struggling with making this decision, just loads of opinions or shouting going on. So he can't hear himself think. And that's what I want to then visualize in the courtroom of like all these people shouting and opinions being thrown. The two lawyers back down like reprimanded dogs. Prosecutor Brian remains standing. He is slicker than his counterpart. Black suit, sharp, confident. Chance to really show the difference between the two. Your Honor, this man deserves a punishment equal to his acts. May I remind the jury that this was a planned, premeditated attack, hired by my client's employer to silence him and his family for knowing too much about his operation. So I think this is really important because I've written down the overview. I know where the story is going, but at this point, the audience has no idea. So it actually gives me an opportunity to give them a load of information quickly without having to give them the whole backstory. Defense lawyer, exactly, he is just a gun for hire. Defense lawyer Brian stands in his cream suit, a bit casual for a courtroom. His face is softer than the hard-faced prosecutor. So again, subtle differences, but just making sure that it's clear that they're on opposing sides of this argument. If he is executed now, there'll be no chance of linking it back to the employer, the real culprit here. He is the one who needs to face judgment. Oh please, this guy won't snitch. He probably won't even get the chance to. My client's employer will have him killed before he reaches the station. Now, you probably wouldn't say that in an actual courtroom, but it adds to the surrealness of the situation. This is not justice. There's no death penalty here. This will be plain cold murder. It is self-defense. He is tied up with a bag over his head. With the way that's delivered, there's opportunity for a bit of comedy there, really just hitting home that point of like, it's self-defense. And he's like, what do you mean? He's got a bag over his head. How is this self-defense? You can't just kill him now. Prosecutor, only because my client was brave enough to defend himself had he not managed to knock him unconscious with evidence 2A, and then you cut to a blood-covered cricket bat in a plastic evidence bag. And quite a cool way of incorporating the evidence and also giving the audience more information and visual cues to the backstory. then he would have faced the same fate as the victims. A member of the jury, another Brian, shifts uncomfortably at the mention of the victims. So I put that in because I wanted a little extra visual cue to point towards the fact that the prosecutor has just said the victims, to show that there are other people that have died and this assassin has actually killed someone. If I just left it as the words, there's maybe a chance that they might miss it. So adding a little visual cue just really points to it to say to the audience, hey, something important just happened here. So I'm reiterating that point. Objection, Your Honor, speculation. I think that's right. I'm not a lawyer, but it's what they say in the TV shows, so I think it works. Sustained. Prosecution, let's keep to the facts, please. Of course, Your Honor. Let's talk about the facts. A projector screen appears next to the prosecutor. Again, because this is in his mind and adding to the surrealness of it, the fact that the projector can just appear next to him, I think adds to it. The facts are that this man broke into a house with the sole intention of brutally murdering an innocent family. Emotion swells in the prosecutor as he uses a clicker to display images on the screen, using that to build the tension around this. He put a bullet through the head of a defenseless mother. I really want those words to ring out and have an effect on the audience, so I'd like keep a pause around that. A picture of a body on the ground is displayed on the screen. There is a groan and a cry from the jury. One of the jury Brians wails in misery, while another one doubles over and retches. So I want to show all these different reactions from ultimately the same person to seeing these images of who is his dead wife. One of them just throws up, one of them is crying hysterically, one of them is just stone cold, perhaps. So just really showing all these different ways that Brian's being pulled, and there's just emotions in his head. Ballistics showed that she was the first to be shot, meaning their 9-year-old daughter witnessed her mother's murder before suffering the same fate. Oof. Click. The next picture appears on the screen. Louder cries erupt from the jury. Beat on the defense, who closes his eyes tightly. The judge bangs his gavel furiously. So I don't actually want to show the image because I think the reaction from it will be more intense than actually showing the image. Kind of like the whole Jaws thing of never show the shark. That is enough. You do not need to subject us all to what we have already seen. You have made your point. So again, it's just bringing in the idea that all of them are the same person and they've seen these images. Now, opportunity for a bit of a monologue. These images will be displayed on repeat until the end of our time, Your Honor. There is no hiding away from them. They will replace any happy memories that once were. Imagine that. For years to come, any reminder of your beautiful wife or your sweet, sweet little angel will be infected by these images. They will be there when you wake, they will be there when you sleep. You cannot escape them. There will be no new memories of school plays or sports days. There will be no images of your wife aging gracefully. All that is left is the memory of them on that cold floor. I want to add hard. Cold, hard floor. These are the facts. These are the results of this animal's actions. Someone who is capable of taking away so much life does not deserve life themselves. A beat in the silence. The room is thick with emotion. A tear runs down the defense's cheek. Defense, do you have a response? The defense stands, deep breath. I do not, Your Honor. So I probably could expand that section a bit more and add in a little bit more of an argument, but I feel like for a short film where I'm only aiming for like 7 to 10 pages, I want to keep it a little bit more concise. And I feel like that monologue can really do the heavy lifting of driving the emotion. And it's almost just showing that the defense lawyer has been convinced. So if the defense lawyer is convinced, the prosecutor is convinced, the judge is convinced, then we're all convinced and this guy's going to die. Very well. I think the judgment is clear. He's not even considering the jury, which obviously would happen in a real court, but this is in his mind, so it doesn't matter. We slow as the judge raises his gavel, and then we smash cut to internal garage. I've called it a garage here, and I've called it a basement above. I think I know why, because I think I want to have the sort of cinematic effect of the garage opening and closing, so I'll need to go back and change and make sure it's garage throughout, not basement. Brian lowers the gun just as the gavel is being lowered. So as the gavel's coming down, it sort of smash cuts to a gun, and we are now back in the garage. Blue and red lights flicker through the only window. So that just adds a little bit more jeopardy of, well, the cops are here now, so he's gonna kill him and the cops are right outside. He still shakes as the finger goes to the trigger to pass his judgment. So he's still shaking, he's still a bit unsure, but he's making the action. Objection, Your Honor, objection, stop. This is obviously a voice coming from the courtroom, so it's a voiceover. We go into the courtroom. The judge pauses, gavel mid-air. Confusion spills across all the Bryans. What is it? You seemed in agreement with the verdict. I have a witness who wishes to testify, Your Honor. What do you mean a witness? There were no witnesses. So this is an opportunity for a little bit of a plot twist. A warm glow fills the room coming from the witness stand. A woman appears in a beautiful soft light, contrasting the dark courtroom. Beat on the prosecutor who skips a breath. His watering eyes reflect the light. Brian. The courtroom is empty, except for one Brian in the clothes he wears in the garage. So I did that because I don't want it to be that she's speaking to the prosecutor or the defense, because those are all different versions of Brian. This is just Brian. He looks at her, broken. The gun still in his hand by his side. I know this is hard. I know you are hurting, but it is all going to be okay. You were so brave. I didn't do enough, and Brian's just breaking down here. I didn't save you. You did all you could. Her smile washes a calm over the room. Don't seek vengeance. That is not you. It is not us. He took you away from me, our baby girl. I have nothing without you. You have life, and the only thing we ask is that you live enough for the three of us. Honor us by doing the right thing. Don't stain your hands with this. Remember me as I am now. Remember us. His 9-year-old girl appears next to his wife, smiling and waving. Hi, Daddy. Tears cascade down Brian's face, but a smile breaks through. He drops the gun to the floor and falls to his knees. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. I love you too, Daddy. Her laugh echoes in the room. I want her to, she's just saying I love you to my dad. It's not in this situation. She doesn't understand it. We will be together again. Be brave for us. Brian closes his eyes. Now there is a part of me that does want to make the wife a little bit stronger, maybe a bit more angry with him, of saying, don't make our deaths about you, don't now go throw away. We would give anything to be alive again, so you need to go out and live your life. And maybe she's a bit stronger on that. So that's probably something that I could bring into in the second draft, but for now I'm going to leave it as it is. Fade to the basement. Brian gets to his feet and walks towards the opening garage door. That's the cinematic element that I would quite like. A bright white light shines into the garage, with flickers of blue and red lights. He walks into the light. A silhouette of a woman and a little girl walking towards him. The girl giggles as Brian picks her up and walks off hand in hand with the silhouette of his wife. End. Cool. So that's a first draft. We've got to the top of 7th page, so there's room to add in a bit more. And I think it's so easy to, as you're going around, to try and edit and go back to the top and change things. But it's so important to get to that point where you've got a finished draft and the story comes to a conclusion. There we go. So there we have it, a finished script. As usual, I'll probably keep tinkering with it and get it to a final draft. But also, I would love to actually make this happen. So if there's anybody out there interested in making short films and collaborating, let me know. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, because I've got many more videos to come. And every subscriber that I get is just more motivation to keep putting out videos. I'll be doing more on my main project, The Spies from Kobe. So stick around. I'll see you in the next episode.